My name is Jayanta Kumar. I am from EC department, and today I am going to discuss the basic idea about the communication system and some portion of the amplitude modulation. So, firstly, what is the objective of this lecture? At first, we can understand what are the basic elements of the communication system and what is the purpose of the modulation process in the communication system and what are the advantages of the modulation process. And after that, we can try to focus on what is the modulation and demodulation technique of the amplitude modulation. And lastly, we can try to understand what are the basic idea behind the modulation index. Next, at first, when we are going to discuss about the communication system, first we try to understand what is the meaning of the communication. So basically, at the definition, we can say that it is the process of the conveying or transferring information from the source to the destination. It may be any type of information we can send from the source to the destination by the help of the communication system. So there is a two type of communication system we have. There is the one is the analog communication system, and there is the digital communication system. So if you go for the analog communication system, basically the information which we want to transmit that are basically in the analog signals. Analog means that is the continuous in nature. So we can see that this is this picture. That this is the example of the analog signal where your time at the time changes, the amplitude also continuously changes. But in the case of digital signal, where amplitude is the fixed due to some time instant. So when you are going to send the signal in the digital form, that time the communication system is called the digital communication system. But we can also only focus on the analog communication system for this lecture. Now in this slide, in this right side, you can see that there is different type of example of the communication system. There is the telephonic system, there is the video transmission, that is basically these are the TV transmission system, and there is the last one, that is the wireless communication system, and the computer communication system are there. These are the basically the example of the communication systems. Nextly, what are the basic idea behind, and we can say that what are the elements we can use to transmitting some information from the source to the destination. So these are the basic elements. So firstly, there is some information sources. Second one, some transducers. Third one, some transmitter, and fourth one, channel. Fifth one is receiver, and again you can use the transducer for the receiving end. At last, the destination the message can reach to the destination. These are the basic elements we can require apply for the communication purpose. So at first we go for the source. What are the source? Basically, source are the message, or maybe this message can be the any type of human voice, television pictures, and also the emails or the data that are the coming from the source. If the data is non-electrical, then that means the human voice, email that are non-electrical, that you have to convert it the electrical signal by the help of some transducer which can be used here. Now, what are the example are used here? That microphone, computer keyboard, and CCTV camera, that are the basic example of the transducer which can use for the signal which are non-electrical, that would be the converted to the electrical waveform. So these are the some source we can use for the transmission purposes. Next one is transmitter. The transmitter is basically used for the transmit the message. The message, or you can say that the baseband signal to the some channel to your proper destination. That are the purposes of the transmitter. Now, what are the point we have covered here? The transmitter modifies the baseband signal for the efficient transmission. Basically, transmitter have these properties, or this type of characteristics. It can be modify the baseband signal, that means the electrical signal convert to some type of conversion will be there, where we can use the what type of channel for that channel. So transmitter may be consist of the one of the most subsystem, that is the A to D converter, encoder, and the modulator. These are the some basic the parameters you can say that for the transmitter. And last, we can also say that when you can use the transmitter, you can follow A to D converter, encoder, and modulator. At the same time, at the receiver end, we also use the decoder and the D to A converter, and also the demodulator. So these are the some portion we can also cover in the receiver section. Next one, what is the channel? The channel is the medium of a choice that can be convey the electrical signal at the transmitter output over a distance. It means whatever the signal we have to transmit to the destination, that can be used different type of channel to the, it may be the channel, may be the some coaxial cable, some copper wire, or some optical fibers, or some radio link. So these are the some example of the channels. So normally the copper wires are used for the telephone or the DSL, and for the television and the internet purposes we can use the coaxial cable, and optical fiber is used for the the high frequency range of communications, and these are the useful for the different communication purpose. Now, fourth point is that the noise. If you want to transmit, if you go for the previous slide, that after you transmit the message through the channel, there is some noise, the unavoidable some noise would be added to the channel, and that type of information, after adding some noise or distortion, because of the distortion, some, if you go for that one, that the signal have waveform is distorted because of the physical phenomena such as the frequency dependent gains, multipath effects, and the Doppler shift. These are the basically some characteristics of the channel. Because of that, your information can be distorted. So that can be rectified at the receiver end. But if you go for when you go for the noise, that noise cannot be eliminated properly. Okay, it can be reduced, but it cannot be eliminated. So because of this noise, the rate of the communications would be degraded. So that's why the noise is the very much important parameter in the communication system, and you cannot avoid this noise at all. Now, what are the noise? There is the two type of noise are coming into the picture. The one is the external noise, the another is the internal noise. And external noise are basically coming from some interference signals which are transmitted from the nearby channels, and human-made noise generated by the faulty contact switches of the electrical equipments, automobile ignition radiations, and some fluorescent lights, and also some lightning. The natural, these are the natural noise is coming, the lightning as well as the solar and the intergalactic radiation. These are the some example of the external noise. But internal noise also present in the at the receiver end when there is used some semiconductor devices. There is also some internal noise also coming. So what are the generation of the what are the this internal noise is coming? It are coming from the thermal motion of the charged particle in the conductors, and diffusion or the recombination of the charge carrier in the electronic devices. So these are the some sources of the internal noise. So these are the some point you have to remember that what are the noise, from where the noise is coming, and what is the how do these noise are applied at the communication process. Next one is that receiver. The receiver is the system, or you can say that this is the one type of electronic devices which can receive the signal from the channel and it can modify it. Whatever the basic signal you want to transmit, that can be recovered at the receiving point. The receiver processes the signal received from the channel by reversing the signal modification made at the transmitter and removing the distortion made by the channel. That means the whatever the distortion is coming at the receiving point, that can be removed at the receiver. Next one, at the destination, that is destination means that unit to which the message is communicated. Suppose if you want anyone who want to send some message from source 1 to source B. So suppose this is also human and this one is also someone to talk to the other human. So this B is the proper destination. So these are the basic idea of the communication system. So all the elements, whatever you need for the communication system, that we can try to give some explanation. Now, next point is that what is the modulation process? Modulation is the one of the interesting concept of the communication system. So in this modulation technique, it can be varied the lower frequency signal, also can say that the baseband signal to the convert to the higher frequency signal. So first definition, we can say that it is the process of the varying the characteristics of the high frequency carrier in accordance with the instantaneous values of the modulating or the message, or you can say that the baseband signal. Okay, that is also you can say that the modulation technique, which is also the frequency translation technique, which convert the baseband or the low frequency signals to the band pass of the high frequency signal. So modulation technique can be used for the changes the lower frequency signal, that is the message signal, converted to the higher frequency range, and this higher frequency are used for the carrier purpose. It can carry this message, the baseband signal, to your proper destination. Now question is coming, what are the use or the benefit of this modulation technique? The first one is that it can be used to reduce the length of the antenna height. Second one, it can be selecting after using the modulation. You can use this modulation technique to select the proper desired signal which you want to receive at the receiving end. Last one is the multiplexing. So these are the major advantages of the modulation techniques in the communication system. Now at first we go for the first one, that what is the how to change the antenna height. Normally, if you consider that audio signal that is range is suppose 100 hertz to suppose 300 hertz, suppose 3 kilohertz if you consider, and if you want to determine what is the wave length, this wave length would be follow this equation, and this C means the speed of the light, that is the 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, and this is the frequency of your audio signal, that is 10 to 3 into 10 to the power 3 hertz. Now if you calculate it, your values would be coming here 10 to the power 5 meter. So you can say that it should be 100, 10, 100 kilometer is your wavelength of this audio signal. Now if you want to determine the antenna height to transmit this signal, that would be follow this equation. Normally antenna height would be the fraction 0.1 multiply with what is the values of the wavelength. So you can say that it should be coming the 10 kilometer according to this calculation. So this, when you want to transmit this signal 3 kilohertz, transmit to the radio wave, to the radio media, means the open air media, that time the antenna height requirement is 10 kilometer. So this one is impractical. You cannot make this size of the antenna to transmit this signal. So you can use the modulation technique like some carrier which can use suppose 3 megahertz. If you use this megahertz, this amount of frequency for the carrier, and if you calculate it, the how to reduce the antenna height, previously what we have calculated, that is the calculation for the antenna height when you want to transmit the signal, audio signal, that is the 3 kilohertz the value. Now if you use the higher frequency carrier, that value is the 3 megahertz, that time the frequency wavelength is coming here, that is 3 10 to the power 8 divided by 3 multiply with 3 10 to the power 6. So your result is coming 100 meter. So wavelength, when you use the 3 megahertz the carrier frequency, then your wavelength become that 100 meter. And if you want to determine the what would be the height of the antenna height should be 1 over 10 multiply with what is the wavelength is coming here, that is the 10 meter. So now if you use this carrier signal to transmit your message, then your antenna height would be reduced to the 10 meter. Previously that was the 10 kilometer like this, now it will be changed to the 10 meter. Now you can make this antenna. Practically you can build this size of antenna. So that is the one important concept of the modulation technique. Next one is that the selecting the desired signal. That means what is the meaning of this second point is that suppose if you want to transmit the different audio signal and you have used the different modulation technique, so different radio station or different sources have used the different modulation frequency, carrier frequency to transmit the signals. Now at the receiver point, then if you want to receive some particular frequency, particular channel frequency, then you can tune that particular channel and you can reject the all other channels. You can use the modulation technique to transmit the signals and properly that channel signal. And at the receiver point, using some tuner, you can perfectly tune that signal, tune the channel, okay, and you will receive that signal. So that is the one important. And all the other signals is coming from the different channel that can be neglected. So you can use that also by the help of the modulation technique. And last one is the multiplexing. What is this point? That if you want to transmit the different signals, different audio signals, and you can use the same channel, and different channel can use the different audio signals and use the modulation technique to transmit the different channel audio signal to the same media or same channel. So that is the point. The multiplexing can be done by the help of the modulation. There is no interference is coming like the all the cable TV. There is the some where the cable are used for the transmitting the different channels information. And at the part in the receiver end, we can use the tune the particular channel. We can see the channel. So that is the example of the multiplexing. So we can say that these are the three major advantages we can face in the modulation technique. Next one is that in this slide we can also discuss that the different electromagnetic spectrum are used for the different application. Like that we can use, if you want to go for the AM radio broadcasting system, there we can use the 300 kilohertz to 3 megahertz the carrier frequency, and at that particular spectrum we can use for that purpose. And if you go for the mobile communication or FM or TV, that is we can use the 30 megahertz to 300 megahertz, that is called the very high frequency range, that also used for the TV, FM or the mobile communication. And lastly, you can go for the 10 to the 5 gigahertz to 10 to the 6 gigahertz, that is called the optical frequency range, and it can be also used for the optical communication. And in this table we can also easily describe that the different communication purpose and what is their spectrum can be used. So next slide, we will go for the some types of the modulation according to the our syllabus. We can go for the analog communication. We can say that we can try to cover the amplitude modulation technique, angle modulation technique, and these are also called the continuous wave modulation, because here all the carriers are in the form of the continuous signals. But if you go for the pulse modulation technique, there the carrier we can use for the some square pulses. So that is the basic difference between the continuous wave modulation and the pulse modulation. And in the case of the angle modulation, there is also two part, that is the frequency modulation and the phase modulation. So next, if you go for the amplitude modulation technique, that are used for the any type of, what is the definition of the amplitude modulation technique? The amplitude of the carrier signal that can be varied in accordance with the instantaneous amplitude of the modulating signal. That means if you have this message signal, and this is called the baseband signal, and you use this carrier to transmit this message, so after amplitude modulation, the amplitude of this carrier would be varied according to the instantaneous amplitude of the message signal. So that is the point you have to remember for the amplitude modulation technique. Now, whatever the message amplitude is varied according to the envelope of your carrier signal, that also varied. So next class we try to focus on the what is the mathematical time domain mathematical expression of the amplitude modulation technique, and also some modulation index we try to cover in the upcoming next class. Okay, thank you.